This is the Epic Hell portion of the Elisia Advent. I'm going to be covering both slow clears and one-shots. One important thing for one-shots is if you're looking up other comps, any comps that are 2 years old aren't going to work for Phase 3 because the protection mana last year was changed from, before it was, I think, like 50% extra defense, but everybody was just ignoring it with 100% Death Pen units, so Smallgate changed it to damage reduction instead. So you need much more damage to clear Phase 3 now. Okay, so one thing that has changed since last time is they moved one of the White Snake Fangs, which is the currency that you use, or that you get from Epic Hell and you use in the shop. They moved it into the reputations, which means that Epic Hell used to be 5 entries, 2 drops per entry. It's probably 3 per entry now, and I guess we'll see after I clear the stage. So you don't have to do as many entries into Epic Hell this time, which is a bit nice. Phase 1, same as Hell mode, you just want a bunch of AoE to kill the ads. You can do damage to Elisia, don't bother using Death Break. Since she's tankier in this phase, this pops up a lot more, where the ads have blind on their S1, and they have counter attack if you don't debuff them. You can kind of just ignore the debuff if you just use immunity from stuff like Vivian. Bloodstone Landy might be useful to keep yourself sustained up as well, since you'll be taking a lot longer on this phase in a slow clear. You'll want to try to dispel the battle mana effect for any slow runs. For this, you need to use 5 AoE attacks after killing all of the ads. This means that since she spawns the ads with her S3, she spawns the ads, you kill the ads as fast as you can, and then you try to hit her with AoEs. If you're one-shotting, you're not going to clear this battle mana effect. It gives her Death Pen, so you probably don't want her to take any more turns after this, and you want to one-shot every single phase, and not just Phase 1. For Phase 2, you're going to want to dispel the protection mana effect for slow runs. All you have to do is hit the troll with a single target attack 6 times. This is pretty trivial, just hit it with your supports and keep on slamming Elisia with DPS. Just make sure you don't drop Elisia below 40% before dispelling this effect. If you're one-shotting, this means that you will need a ton of damage in order to break through this 50% damage reduction. Otherwise, the mechanics for Phase 2 are pretty much the same. Troll gives damage reduction, S1 stuns, dual attacks, hits backline. Elisia hits frontline. Since you're going to be spending a lot of time here, for slow runs, Rowana is really good because the troll strips on its S3 and does unbuffable. So you're not always going to have the 2 buffs, and sometimes Elisia is going to proc her extra attack, which is an AoE, so you're going to be getting a lot of value from Rowana. Stuff like Diane's really good, Ludica's really good, Sid, Midnight Gall Lilius will also probably be really good. For one-shotting, keep in mind that there is a 45% damage share, so Elisia's HP bar is a lot larger than it seems. You can just burst through it with damage. Lastly, Phase 3, just one-shot it. The best setups you can use are stuff like Flan, Soulburn her for Death Break and Pushback, and then her S2 will give attack buff, crit damage buff, and CR push to your unit. One thing to keep in mind, Elisia is like 250 speed or something ridiculous in Epic Hell, so your opener is going to want to be pretty fast in order to outspeed her. Other stuff that is really good is stuff like Eligos, because Eligos gets hit chance buff, which means that he doesn't care that she's Ice Element. You can Soulburn him for ignore Ephra's Death Break, target, and CR pushback, and then you can boost up your DPS with Flan or something and not have to Soulburn her to save souls. So one thing I forgot to expand on is that she dispels debuffs when you hit her with a non-critical hit, so any units that you're hitting her with, even if it's supports, make sure they have a 100% crit chance. For nukers, the classic ones are Baiken and Sigrid. If you didn't clear the protection mana 50% damage suffered, I think you kind of have to use Sigrid, because Sigrid's Soulburn S2, S1 proc into her S3 with all of the Death Pen from debuffs is pretty much unmatched in terms of one-turn damage on manual. So use Sigrid. Otherwise, if you did clear it, you can just use Baiken and one-shot her normally. This is the team I'll be using for Epic Hell. One-shots probably aren't as important anymore since we only need 3 entries this time. But I set it up already, so I'm going to use it anyways. Same as in the Hell run, Mercedes AoE damage attack buff, Fry Witch's area, AoE damage, drink, And Straze one-shots. The only thing is the tag health is important here because we're going to need to soul burn later on. Stop the auto. Vivian gives us the 2 buffs that we need to get rid of the damage reduction passive. 15% here. Also, the troll normally hits the back line. He has a chance to hit front. If he hits Biken, you gotta reset. Or if you get resisted and get Biken hit. Also, depending on who the troll decides to target, if F Clary is the one who dies, Vivian will be able to do extra damage to help you get a clean one-shot. That's not consistent, so you want to make sure that your Biken has enough damage to kill Elisia without Vivian's help. And there goes Vivian. Biken's Bleed, the first one, ignores F-Res. Only an 80% proc chance though, so you want to make sure you have the damage to kill even without relying on the bleed. I got the CR push there, but Elisia has pretty much no speed in this phase. My Biken would have cut anyways. Now going into phase 3, you soul burn Eligos. Push up with Flan. You need to make sure that Sigrid moves first, or else Elisia is gonna one-shot her. I need 2 debuffs to land with this S2 and the S1 proc. I got 5, or I got 3 debuffs for 5 total, and this should kill. Now to go over their stats. Mercedes, faster than Briar Witch. Enough damage to do 40% of the ad's HP. Team attack buff to help Straze hit the attack that he needs. Tag helps for souls. Briar Witch, just stack damage on her. With Drink, you need enough attack. I don't know how much, but you need enough attack so that you do 20% of the ad's HP with the extra damage proc. Straze, make sure you load up on attack. I use Hell Cutter for the extra attack because Elisia in Epic Hell has a lot more attack than normal. So you need to make sure you get the max defense penetration on S3 in order to one-shot her. Next up is F Clary, I guess. She's just 85F with enough speed to move before the troll. The best Deathbreaker would probably be Furious actually. But I don't have Furious built because Furious can hold this Confile for extra death break chance. 45% extra death break chance. Since Elisia never actually moves, the 1-turn death break would be enough. Or you could use Elgaic Candle, which is slightly less death break chance, but still death break chance, and it would slightly increase your runs. Also free stats from the crit chance buff. After F Clary was Vivian. Vivian, you just want her to move before the troll, doesn't really matter. And then Biken, you load up on damage. I forgot to give her an artifact. Maybe that's why she didn't one-shot cleanly. Well, this Biken definitely has the damage to cleanly one-shot phase 2 now. Okay, after Biken, phase 3 units. Since Eligos is a unit that actually hits Elisia, you need to make sure you give him 100% crit chance so that you don't proc the cleanse. He's holding Midnight Bloom, gives everybody 16% crit chance, so he only needs 84 in this case. Also, as I mentioned, Elisia is blazing fast, so you probably want at least 260, probably 270 speed. Next up is Flan. You need to make sure that Flan moves before Elisia, after Elisia gets her push up. And my S2's not molded because I don't use Flan. You use the push EE because you need to make sure that Sigrid cuts Elisia. Lastly is Sigrid. You just load her up on damage, rage, and either pen or torrent. Not sure which one does more damage, but I have more pen gear, so I use that. If your Flan doesn't push Sigrid enough, you might need a little bit of speed on her as well. Try to get 100% crit chance. I have Midnight Bloom, so I can go down to 84. And for EE, make sure you use the S1 damage EE. For a slow clear, I'm just going to look at the team I did last time this came around. Nothing changed since last time except for that one debuff thing in phase 3, but we one-shot that phase, so this would work just fine on this run as well. Vivian, S3 for attack buff. You just use some AoEs to clear out the ads. You need to hit Elisia 5 or 6 times to clear the battle mana thing so you don't die in later phases. Vivian does her thing. And then from here, you're just slowly chipping away at Elisia. Since we're not doing a fast clear, you're going to spend a lot of time hitting her and she's going to summon more ads. Make sure you save your AoEs for that. I chose not to do it there, but if you really need to, you can use Belly and Soulburn to do 2 attacks. Diane's probably the best buffer overall. I didn't have a lot of F-res on her, but if you can, get 200 F-res on Diane so she doesn't get stunned. Okay, this is going to take forever. It's just, when you're Diane and Rowana go, hit the troll however many times you're supposed to hit it to dispel the defense buff, and then just keep on slamming into Elisia with Luluka. Make sure you don't drop Elisia below 40% before you dispel the protection mana. Cool, phase 3. An easier version of the fast run. Since we're not hitting Elisia, she doesn't get CR pushed up, and you can just double push up Baikin. No 50% damage reduction, so it's a lot easier to one-shot, and you just pop her. And that's it for Epic Hell. Hope your 3 runs go well. If you need anything, Discord in the link description, guide description. Yeah.